Okay, so I had to restart the video, yeah, anyway. So there's like 8 sort of core concepts that I work with, which is a lot. And it's really about trying to figure out what works best for you. Um, so number 1 is dominant 9 scales and arpeggios around the circle. Number 2 is applying some of that already to the to chord changes, and you can use a common cadence just for simplicity, 1-6-2-5. The third is chromatic approaches to thirds, and still use the same cadence. Then we get into target notes. Then it's accented target notes, and that's voice-led target notes. Then it's voice-led target notes, and go to the fifth. So that's something else entirely. And then you have accented voice-led target notes to fifth continuous scales, which is sort of, this is the big one. Like, this is the thing that I get to, but also this one is really good too. Target notes, sorry, I should say accented target notes. That's a really important one. So, if we're taking away like one key thing, it's that accented target notes. It just helps me feel the changes that are going on. So the first thing is just doing, excuse me, dominant 7 scales. And when I say that going up to the 9th, all I mean is like you're doing quarter notes, sorry, 8 notes all the way up, and then that's the 9th right there. That's the 9th degree. That's an A in the key of, well, this would be G7, right? Not C7, but I would go G7, and I would go all the way up, all the way down. I do the arpeggio all the way up to the A, all the way back down, and then I do a 1-5-3-5-1. And this really starts to build a relationship with the third, the fifth, and the 1. And then, so if I'm taking this around the cycle, I would go G7, I would do C7, F7, B flat 7, so on and so forth. Go through all 12 keys. And I started doing this probably like 5-6 years ago, and it's really important. So the next thing is just writing out the 1-6-2-5. So A minor 7 is going to be joop, joop. And we'll do A minor 7, the 5th, and then we'll get the 3rd, the 7th, and the 9. Yeah, so all this is trying to tell me where the 5th is, where the 1 is, and then where the juicy harmonic notes are. And that's your 3rd, 7th, and the 9. And so why I mentioned this guy right here is because you apply this technical motion to the chord change. So, and it's mentioned in J.B. Abersol books too, doing the 9th, and I find it really helpful. So I started doing it, and I love it. It's one of my favorite exercises. So that's number 2. Number 3 is this exercise is called chromatic approach notes. I call it chromatic approach note to the 3rd continuous scales. So here we start to work in the confines of the chord progression, and it's best to loop a progression at this point. And again, I'll demonstrate some of this stuff for sure. But so first we map out the thirds. And again, this is a minor 7. Map out the thirds. All right. And then D minor 7. So it's going to be an F. And then a G. So it's going to be a B. Okay, so we're starting to see some of the motion here. And the point is that so if you're going to approach the E from a chromatic step below, it's going to be an E flat, and it's going to be an eighth note. And then what you do is just like, some random. I need more room. Oh, shoot, sorry. E, G, B, A, C, G, A. Now, when you get to the end, what's important is that you're going to chromatic approach to the third of the next chord. And this is really difficult to start, but it's so beneficial. So here what I did is right here, it's a B natural going into a C. And it really emphasizes the movement into that C, into that third. And you would continue on, and then you would do the same thing. If you're going to the F, you're approaching it from an E natural. Okay? And if you're going into the B natural, for the G7, you've got to go into it from a B flat. Okay? So this would be just, and again, I'll do another video that'll be that I'll do examples. I'll go through what all this is. Yeah. So then number 4 is target notes, and I'm thinking about this slightly different than voice leading, because to me voice leading was always about the thirds and the sevenths, but with target notes, you don't need to do that. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to start on the 5, actually, as opposed to the third. But we'll start on the third anyway. So again, write out the chord change. So we have a C, which is the 1. We have an A minor 7, which is the 6. We have a D minor 7, which is the 2. And then we have a G7, which is the 5. Okay. So target note E. Now, all I want to do is go, it doesn't have to be a third or a seventh or whatever, a voice lead. I just want to target the third, the second, the seventh, the sixth, or the fifth of the next chord. So in this case, you can go up to the 7, and then here you can go to the B, and then you can go to the A. So if you do that, that has a really nice harmonic texture, because you're going third, 7, 6, and then you're going to the 9. I guess this, yeah, I should call it 2. Yeah. So yeah. So that is the a target note approach, and then you would add the accents. So on the, which is, it's probably easier to demonstrate now when I'm talking about accent stuff. So all I mean when I'm doing accented target notes is if you write out, and it's just one note, 2, 3, 4. So you go here, 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 and then like here, here, here. So just every 3 notes, you're doing an accent and it gives a swing feel, and you do that throughout. So you're just like da 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 da. And I don't know, but that rhythmic pattern seemed to unlock a lot of stuff for me. Um, so the next thing is voice leading target notes. Um, so on voice led target notes, what you want to do is you want to play the note. You want to deviate from whatever note that you're initially targeting. So say I'm doing the same pattern, I'm on an E. You want to treat it kind of like the continuous chromatic approach ones, but you're focusing on the voice-led notes. Let's choose something different, maybe something a little bit closer. You also don't necessarily need, and the other thing I want to mention is that the number 4, it builds a melody. Like we're focused on melody. So even if, we wanted to hit a 1 or a 2 or whatever, like here, what might be neat is to go to an A, right? Because the A is the 5 of the D, and then resolve to the 3 of the G. That would sound good too. Actually, that might sound better. But the point is that we're building a melody with this thing. With the voice lead, yeah, like we are still building a melody of sorts, but it's really more focused on harmonic accuracy as opposed to melodic fluidity, right? This melodic fluidity, this harmonic accuracy, in my opinion, like how I think about it. So yeah, we go C. C is the 1. A minor 7, 6 again. D minor 7 is the 2. G7 is the 5. So here, I'm going to start on the... Let's start. So we'll go B. Yeah, go B. So if you go B, and then here can be a C, because it's the 3rd of A, and then C, and then down to B. Pretty straightforward. So the important part is that we're using as few steps as we can to get to the next sort of harmonic note, and that's kind of the point. But we make sure that we're hitting the B note before, like we're making sure that we are voice leading over the measure, so that a note here isn't just any random note. It's actually like a voice-led note, and that's really important for later, right? Even though this one's the same, I'll put it in. And then we're going C, like that. And then you do the thing. You go like da 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 da. But you would deviate. Da 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 da. So you can kind of see that you're building. You're starting to build more complex lines that have melody, they respect the harmony, and they start to have swing or articulation. So we're starting like plus articulation. The 7th one is the weird one. So 7 is something I started doing, and that's really like voice leading, but resolving to the 5. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. It's like this one gets more challenging. So we always want to go after we hit our target voice led note or our TVN. We want to resolve to the 5. So we hit the B and then we go almost immediately to the G. Okay. Then we voice lead not from the 5. We voice lead from that original note. So we go from the B to the C. And then once we get there, we hit the 5. And the 5 of that C is an E. And then we do the voice lead again. C, C, but now the 5 of the D is an A. So we hit the A. Then we voice lead again. C, down to the B, and that's good. And then we resolve it to the 5 again, up to the D, right? So well, I messed up my color coding, but anyway, I'll go back and we'll do some color coding on this one. Just to make it super clear, what's thirds and sevenths, and what's the 5? Okay. And why? Because at the end, if we want to really be focusing on, so this really between the voice led third and sevenths, and hitting the 5, you are hitting some of the most important notes in the harmony. And being able to know how to resolve and get back to the 5 enables you not just to have good articulation, respecting the harmony, and creating melodic lines, but it allows you to start resolving phrasing correctly, because you can be really pronounced with a resolution to a 5, saying, okay, like I'm hitting the 5, this is my resolution, and your ear and your feeling can start to get a hold of that. So this gives you sort of feeling, auditory, and if you're doing, these exercises, visual awareness, over how the 5 is moving. And it does, like, it moves in parallel with the root, sure. But when we start doing things in, like, later for more complicated versions of this exercise, so we can actually make melodic lines go up and we can make melodic lines go down. And so I'm just going to give you one quick example about what I mean by that, because you can switch. So recall that the 5 of your, and I'm just going to do 2 bars, but this is kind of just why, right? Recall that the C goes into the A minor 7, which is your 6. Oops, 6. So the 5 of the A minor 7, it can be played up here. It can be played down here. So to make good, well, not all the time, but generally, like, if you want to build good melodic lines, you don't really want to go any farther than a third. Obviously, that's not a specific rule or anything like that. It's just something I like to do because it sounds good to my ears. But if I wanted to resolve down here, down to the bottom, I would go from a not the C. The C can get me up to the E, but where would I go? I would hit the 7th. And so thinking backwards, if I want to play a G into the E, I would tend to want to voice lead somewhere close by. And if I'm voice leading from a C chord into that chord, I'm probably playing from an, well, that's a good question. I guess I'm probably playing from an A, which is the 6th. Just kind of funny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. It's a little bit weird, but anyway. So you might start at a B, which is the 7 of the C, and then quickly resolve to the 5 to get to the G, right? Dun, dun. And then if you wanted to go up to the E, you could ascend somehow, just to skip to the D. So that now we're saying that you don't have to hit the same note as before. I mean, you can. So just for sake of argument, let's call this a B. But you get a choice. You can either resolve up to the C and go to the E, or you can resolve down, go B, G to the E. And yeah, that's how you can start splitting and choosing between different pathways to resolve across chords and then still get back to the 5. And it, to me, like I just, I don't know, I get all giddy. And so then the only other thing that we add, that makes it just a little bit more complicated, right? But this is the last thing, is that we add a passing note, or like I said, an enclosure. So say we're on the B, right? And that's the count of 4. We need something to put into the and for it to have 8 notes in that measure. And so one of the things I like to do is do an enclosure. So if this was a B natural, you could go B, D, C, and then up to the E. Or if this was a, that's why I like doing, forget about the B, play the A, because then you can play an A, F sharp, G, right? And that sounds wonderful. And that's just the quick example I'm going to give to you, because it's the most, like I said, it's the most complicated, but putting everything together, right? So here's the 5. Sorry, here's the 7. Here's the 5. Here's the A, which is the 6. Here's that chromatic note. Here's the G. Right? So hit the B, resolve to the G, and then just before you hit the G of the A minor 7, you go, and then the point, what I was telling you before, instead of doing straight notes, you do syncopated. So it's like, something like that, right? Like, anyway, so that's kind of, but the progression to be able to build lines like that, this is the thing. So this is important to scale, to know scales. I think you should be able to write out the chord changes from 2 and be able to write in where the 9th is, right? And visualize that, because the 9th, the 6th, the 3rd, and the 7th form these purple notes for doing this voice leading. You need to know where the 5th is, right? But like, one of the most interesting things is how easy it can become if you just play exercise. And that's what I wanted to say. That's why I hope you got through the whole video. If you just play exercise number 4 for a bunch of different target notes, it opens up so many doors, and all of this stuff comes so much easier. I can't stress that enough. Like, hearing what's going on with the chord changes as you sit on various target notes for an entire measure and hear the harmony and what's going on around you, you will naturally build your ability to hit these different notes. And what happened to me as that happened, I'm like, okay, well, what else can I do? I never thought I would get to this level of like thinking about it. And I got there really just by playing exercise number 4 for hours and hours and hours. And so I'm just giving you some more stuff to understand conceptually, theoretically, what can go into this, this very last exercise. And again, I think I'm just calling it Myles' exercise. Yeah, so I'll leave it there, and then let me know if you have any questions. And then in the very near, next couple of days, I'll do an example going through all of it. Okay, thanks.